Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L coming in to talk about the dungeon that only I can enter. I watched the first episode today, man, and it was nice. It was nice. It was a nice episode. This one's gonna be interesting to talk about. One thing I will start off by saying is that if I was watching this, it's 2021 now. If I was watching this maybe 3 or 4 years ago, maybe I would have started off by praising it for its for having the main character interact with the female character so much and in the way that the episode did. But in this day and age, anime has slowly been more. It's not the same anime that we were getting in like the early 2000s or even in the early 2010s. Anime nowadays is a lot more forward when it comes to things like this. When it comes to like full romance or like fake romance kind of thing, like with main characters kissing women and being aware of what women are and all that kind of stuff. This has been something that has been increasing in anime as time's gone on because the anime that's being produced now is coming from web novels and light novels that were written specifically because people were getting tired of seeing the same old stale conventions, right? This is what this anime is coming from. It's in the new era of people that wrote based on what they understood of anime and what they wanted to see. And that's what we got here. Now, when we come into the dungeon that only I can enter, and apologies if I get the name mixed up, it's a light novel title. I think overall it was solid for what it is. I liked it. This is one that I read the manga maybe a year or two ago, just a few chapters. So it's cool to see it actually being adapted. And overall, again, I like it. The reason I'm saying I like it so much is because I need to make sure you guys understand that, because I'm about to go into it a little bit. Because when it comes to this one, this is gonna be like a guilty pleasure for me at least. I think this is gonna be like my expectations are gonna be, oh, this is gonna be just a fun series to watch kind of thing. When it comes to this series, compared to Last Dungeon Boonies and all that, I understand what the series is about. I understand what it wants me to know about it, and I'm pretty happy for that. But when it comes to this series, there's a few things that you kind of have to understand about it at the very beginning, because this is one of those series that I don't want to say wish fulfillment, because wish fulfillment doesn't capture it right, but this series needs a lot of things to actually get off the ground, and the first episode does show how contrived of a setup it required in order to get going. Again, not a problem. It works for the series. It works for what expectation level it's aiming at. It works for the tier of story it wants to tell. But it's worth pointing out. So one of the first things that I wanted to talk about was the plot devices. This series can only exist by many plot devices coming together. And again, not a problem. Many other series do this to get their running start. Having multiple plot devices come in one place, not a problem. The only thing that's impressive about this one is the fact that there's so many plot devices are going. So I have a little thing in my hand here that I wrote down. Here are the plot devices that the dungeon only I can enter needs in order to be able to run. 1, Great Sage. Yes, Great Sage is a plot device. When you have a power saying that you get to know anything in the world, and also anything that's unknown in the world, somehow you get to know everything. When you have that kind of power, it's a plot device. It might have been a controlled plot device, but it's a plot device. When you have slime reincarnated as a slime also having a great sage mechanism, and I think a few more do. When you have the great sage mechanism even in the same name compared to slime, when you have that mechanism, it's a plot device. When you have that thing leading into the dungeon that's the title of the series, it's a plot device. Moving on, libido based powers. Believe me, this is a plot device. This is not unique. This thing starts many stories, and this thing allows for many things to occur in this particular episode. It's most likely going to hold for maybe the first season. I am very familiar with this plot device. I know what this plot device does for a story. In this case, when it comes to the libido-based powers, and I'm talking about specifically when the girl comes up, Emma, and is saying that, yo, you can alleviate those headaches by kissing me. It's like, okay, that's that's the plot device already acting there. And then later on, when you find out that being a hedonist is what allows the main character to use his the powers he gained more, it's like, yes, libido-based powers. The thing with libido-based powers is that you can create a situation where you can justify sexy situations, and you also create a situation where you can have realistically a main character that gets to be sexually involved with female characters, which a lot of anime viewers want to see. They want to see their characters have game. You get to have that, but you also get to have the most annoying thing in the world, an oblivious main character. And you can see it in the first episode, specifically when he was reducing the girl's chest size. That's a level of obliviousness that, you know, only anime characters can ever really have. Now, mind you, for some reason, I believe that the manga was originally, he was originally, you know, my impression when I'm thinking about it, but I haven't read it in years, so like take that with a grain of salt. I thought that there was a bit more struggle. Like I think he leaned into it more. Like he was more aware of. I think there was more talk about the romance rhetoric, but I think he was still very oblivious to it. But I think he was more of like, oh yeah, there's no way that she could ever like me kind of thing. But I don't remember. Again, it's been a while. I will just say though, what this does right now is that it creates a situation where this guy can get involved with the girls without getting actually consciously involved with them, which can be very annoying. But it is a really neat plot device for that reason, because you get to have your cake and eat it too. You get to have the sexual contact, but you get to keep the oblivious character, because for some reason some authors still think that's a worthwhile trait. Now, mind you, it might also be for only the beginning, because again, I don't know all the series. But if I was looking at this without looking at the source material, this would be legitimately a little bit of a note. I'd be going into the season wondering like, okay, is he gonna be oblivious for the rest of the season, or is this gonna be a short-term thing? With the amount of effort that the series is going through in the first episode to not have him talk about the fact that he just kissed his childhood friend, and have him do roundabout things like grazing against a girl's chest or having him get a lap pillow from his sister and hugging her. When you have all that stuff going on, it's like, the next plot device was the exclusive dungeon, and you really see the aspect of the plot device there when you have at the end him getting the skull from the monster and then, you know, like profiting off of it. The exclusive dungeon is, I think, legitimately the unique gimmick, because this is what, like, well, actually no, he has many unique gimmicks that give him advantage over another person. Like again, Great Sage allowing him to know everything in exchange for a headache. Like, come on, man, like that is such a kind power conversion. And then you have finally Olivia in the dungeon, and she's a plot device because she's the one that creates the 3 other skills that the guy's going to be using for the rest of the series. And it's actually really interesting when you look at how many things are going on to make this one person unique. It's like, guy, this is like an author that went through like the recent era of light novels and tried to pick out every single aspect he liked. Maybe he saw slime. Oh, slime, Great Sage. I want Great Sage. Oh, shoot. Skills that let you edit your skills and like create new skills. Death March also has that mechanism. An exclusive dungeon that you can go to and level up in by yourself and get cool stuff from that no one else can have access to. Great. Powers that are based on how much you enjoy your life. Shit. There's so many unique things going on here to justify this guy getting a start in the story. It's again hilarious, absolutely hilarious. And mind you, again, these are like the tropes of these kind of fantasies. Usually you see them more in isekais, but this is technically a fantasy. Now, the other thing that's worth looking at in the first episode is the call to adventure, because the call to adventure requires a few contrivances as well. So when it comes to the call to adventure, what exactly happens that starts this story? Well, first off, the timing. They decide to start this at the coming of age time, so he's about to make that transition from being in school to going to higher learning, or, you know, go to vocation. I think that's a pretty good starting time, because for a lot of young people, that's usually when you believe that your life is starting for reals. So I think that was good. So his call to adventure is like, okay, he wants to go be a librarian. That's a pretty unique job for anime at this point. But he gets screwed over by the Viscount. The Viscount is a really good thing to bring in because it brings in the new fad in anime, that being following the lowest of the low, except not really. You're following the lowest of the nobles, the baronet. So when it comes to that, you know, it's interesting that we've moved away from just commoners and now we're dealing with people with influence, and then we have to, like, again restart the pecking order and to say that this guy is worthless. And apologies for the birds, you know, they get very excited when I'm excited. So, you know, interesting angle, but a Viscount screws him over, and that shows us the whole structure of the world. The nobles are just dicks. It's pretty much just nobles versus commoners, except, you know, they're just moving the goalposts. After that, we have an absolutely wonderful line. The guy's got screwed over. He doesn't know what to do. And Emma comes in and like, hey, I was just casually reading an ancient tome yesterday. And it turns out, you know, this great sage had kisses from his wives. It tells you multiple wives because that's appropriate for this kind of series. But it's just like, oh, that's really funny that you just happened to be looking at an ancient tome the day before. But hey, whatever. Kissing will make that headache better. Great. So thanks to Emma, after being in a terrible situation, he is able to use his power for the first time without real consequence, and he is able to get an answer. That being that there is a dungeon that has all the answers to his questions. Quite literally, everything will be solved in this one place. And then, you know, you end up meeting Thingamabob, Olivia, in the dungeon, and the adventure starts there. The end of the episode ends it off with, oh, you know, the guy got into his little adventuring school, and now he needs to get money, which will ultimately lead us back into the dungeon, because the dungeon most likely has drops that are worthwhile. I mean, when you have the guy making history for the first time, it's like, yeah, okay, they legitimately will be able to make money from the dungeon. So, you know, we leave off the episode and we can see where we're going next. We know our next short-term goal. Like, really, in terms of a first episode, you know, we got the main things out of the way. I think it's still interesting to talk about. The call to adventure, contrived, because it required so many things lining up. Like, the Viscount taking the spot, I think, was fine, but Emma just happening to have gotten the information the day before. You know, this is just what is required for a plot to start, but, you know, not the cleanest plot start. It's kind of funny in that regard. Emma clearly likes the boy. I mean, she's following him everywhere. He's oblivious, whatever. We get more of the baronet. Now, there is something that is worth pointing out for this kind of series, because it happens. It happens a lot. And, again, you know, at this point, you can't criticize a chicken for being unable to fly, because it's in its DNA. And this is kind of the thing when we're talking about the stories in this particular genre. But this is also a dungeon leveling power fantasy, where you go into a dungeon and you're able to just level up quickly, and we kind of see it here. But this is something these type of stories do, and that's specifically when you start throwing around levels. And I just think this is funny. When this kid was fighting this monster, he identifies it as level 99 while he is level 23. And my question is, what does it mean to fight a level 99 monster when you're level 23? What does that number mean? In a video game, most video games, because sometimes some video games are badly designed, it means that you're about to get throttled. It means there's no real way of you cheesing this without having some very, very aggressive skills that allow you to not take damage quickly. The interesting thing here is, especially for this series, and it's especially more prevalent because of the way that the LP work. Like, you don't really have a sense for what exactly causes an LP cost to be 80 or something like that, right? You don't really know. It's just you have to accept whatever numbers the kid gives you. But it is really interesting that at level 23, this guy has the mobility of a level 99 monster. Like, think about that. He was able to dodge it for, I think, 2 or 3 hits before he applied the heaviness skill on it. That's really interesting, and this is the problem with lit RPG in general, and this is also on the Japanese side and the English side. There's not a proper representation or there's not a proper logic to what exactly happens when you have such a low-level person cheesing a level 99 thing. Some other series are able to get away with it because they use their unique skills immediately. But in this series, level 23 mobility was able to deal with a level 99 monster that, by all metrics, it's not a heavy monster, it's a Reaper. It should have a lot of unique properties here. It should have high speed. What I'm saying is, he shouldn't have been able to dodge it at this kind of... The point of levels is to tell you what you are relative to another person. But when you're doing this, you kind of destroy the point of a level. You destroy the illusion of a level. Again, level 23 mobility is superseding level 99 mobility. That's nonsensical. But again, that is a trapping specific to any series that brings in gamified concepts. It's just because there's not... Because unless you know how the series is modeling the difference between respective levels, it's kind of hard. Also, it's very ridiculous that you're fighting an opponent 5 times your level and you only go up roughly, what, 10 levels or so? That's a little bit ridiculous. That's a horrible XP gain, but it depends on the series, right? It depends on how you model the experience formula. But at the same time, it's like, I think he could have afforded to go up to level 50. But that's it. That goes back into the whole point with the LP. The series is going to make whatever numbers pop up. They're just going to make it work. The numbers are going to be dictated by what the plot requires. And when we come back to the level 99 situation, it's like, okay, this guy's at level 23. He's able to naturally dodge a level 99 monster. He's able to do it twice without problem. Alright, why should I be concerned if he arrives against a level 300 monster, right? Why should I be concerned? He was able to somehow dodge level 99. Why should I believe it's going to be different if he's also leveling? Right? It's that kind of thing. That's the problem that the levels things creates. And then when it comes to DLP, it's just going to be a situation of, yeah, he's going to have his numbers, and we're only going to know that there is some kind of issue when he brings it up. Like, for instance, he has a skill. Do I need to be concerned about the numbers? No, but what if they tell us, oh shit, I need 1,000 LP to be able to use this skill? It's like, oh, okay, yeah, you need 1,000 and you're at 200? Okay, well, actually, that's going to take a while. We're going to have to look at that point, we're going to have to look at the way that you would build tension and build reliable expectation would be like, if we know he has, if we know what gives him specific numbers, if we know, for instance, what a skill cost is. A way you could build tension and make the LP number actually worthwhile would be something like, if you know that using the rock spell takes 80, he's in a fight, he has 800, you know he has 10 shots of the rock spell, so that builds some kind of tension. If you use those round numbers, it'll be easy for viewers to keep up. Like, there's a lot of ways to make numbers worthwhile, but when you're looking at the way that they treated the Reaper fight, and then when you just look at how lackadaisical they are with numbers, that's going to be one of the things that we should be looking at for the future. We got to see if they're going to stay lackadaisical. Are the numbers just going to be there as the plot demands, or are they going to give viewers the opportunity to be like, shit, you know, he's in a fight with 500 LP. It's against a level 300 monster, and his rocks take up 80 LP. Like, how is he going to do this? Like, what's he going to pull off here, right? That's going to be what we're going to be looking at. We're going to have to be looking at to see if they're going to make it worthwhile. The worst thing that can happen is just that the numbers become like a little footnote as a nice little detail, but don't really change much, right? It's all going to be about tension. Can they maintain tension? Right now, probably not. Because again, level 99 versus level 23, he's able to dodge things without applying things. Yeah, no. There's no real reason to believe that there's going to be serious tension. But again, that might be appropriate to what this series is telling us. Like, when I look at this series, I'm not expecting like the best thing in the world. I'm expecting to see some novel implementations of tropes. Anyway, everyone, overall, I'm excited. I want to watch more of it. I think this is going to be a great talker. I think this is going to be great to talk about it and talk about either the successes or the failures of it. And that's going to be pretty cool. I'm especially like interested in seeing the numbers, because I dabble in this one too. So I kind of want to see how they handle their numbers, and how they maybe use it to their advantage. Again, the series is positioned to have a lot of cool scenarios that only come about because of the LP mechanism. So I really want to see some unique stuff coming out of this one. Anyway, everyone, let me know what you thought about the dungeon only I can enter down below. And until next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.